What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Laugh to Learn podcast, your weekly source for a fun spin on all the goings-on in the world. My name is, as it always has been, haven't changed it yet, Jacob Paveo, and I come to you from the great snowy white north every Tuesday evening. Snow as in the stuff that falls from the sky, not the stuff that goes up your nose. Eastern Standard Time, of course, fresh for download to listen to at work on Wednesday morning for everyone the world around. Do they still call Coke snow? I don't know. I could be dating myself. If it's your first time here, I never did Coke, by the way, but that's just from my time in school. I don't know why we're still talking about this. If it's your first time here, you've probably already left after that. Welcome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting app. I hope you will enjoy your time here enough to return once more, though again, I'm not surprised if you already turned it off. Also, please share the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram right now. It's super easy to do. All you have to do is take a screenshot of the podcast playing on your cellular device and post it on your Instagram story, your Facebook story, or on Twitter on that stupid feed that I already forgot the name of, but it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. You can share it wherever you want to share it. Don't forget to tag the podcast. I keep hitting the mic stand. I've been talking with my hands too much lately. Don't forget to share, to link all of my social media stuff for the podcast. Those can be found in the description on whatever podcast app you choose to listen on. Also, don't forget that podcast merch can be picked up by anyone in the US or Canada at laughtolearnpodcast.com/store. I got a t-shirt this week, and let me tell you, fantastic material, okay? I have to move the print space. It's a little lower than I wanted it to be, so I've lifted it up a little bit higher. But otherwise, fantastic quality. And let me tell you, if you order it now, the print will be done perfectly placed where you want the print to be placed on a t-shirt. Let me tell you, greatest t-shirts ever. I'm actually thinking, since he won't have a job soon, to get Donald Trump to promote this. I'm going to get him to be like, greatest t-shirt, best you've ever seen, best you've ever worn, so comfortable, I wear mine all the time. I'd never wear another t-shirt if other t-shirts existed. So I'm working on raising finances to do that. If you want to help me raise finances, though, you can go and buy that t-shirt right now. Also, we will not be posting an episode the week of Christmas this year. I'm going to be saying this in the coming weeks just so everyone knows. I don't think anyone wants to spend Christmas with me, as evidenced by my own family's cancellation of such events. This week, we're going to keep it short because the last few episodes have been hefty and meaty and juicy, so we're going to start with some entertainment as Barack Obama appeared on Colbert. It's like one of the first late-night shows he's done in a very long time. That happened earlier this week. Then we will get on to the Biden transition because that's what's popular in the news right now. And finally, we will talk about Thanksgiving and its impact on COVID-19. So coming to you from a few hundred feet north of a COVID lockdown zone, quite literally, this is the Laugh to Learn podcast. Hey, check it out. It's the Laugh to Learn podcast. Yeah, so Toronto is locked down. All of Southern Ontario really is locked down at this point. And yeah, it's crazy times. I'm definitely more than a few hundred feet away from the lockdown zone, but I'm pretty close to it. So things are really crazy with COVID right now, but I want to start, actually, I know I said I would start by talking about Obama's appearance on Colbert this week, but I quickly want to say, because I've talked a lot about other podcasters and had people, recommended different podcasts and whatnot. One of those people who I was a really big supporter of, and this is not me attempting to cancel this person, because I still say his book was actually really good and you should buy it, but Dave Rubin, a very popular podcaster out of the San Francisco area. He's kind of fallen off the deep end. Actually, I think he's in Los Angeles, but kind of fallen off the deep end a little bit. He's gone really deep into the conspiracy with Trump and stuff like that. Something that I've talked about him a lot on this podcast. I really talked about his book. I've had people have been like, "What should I read?" And I'm like, "Have you read this book? Go buy it and read it if you like politics, because it's really interesting." It's called "Don't Burn This Book." I still recommend it. However, I am definitely distancing myself from him. His podcasts the last few weeks have been interesting to say the least. He's definitely drinking the Kool-Aid. And he is all about, that the election was fake and not fake, but fraudulent, and overturning the results and stuff like that. And I openly promote podcasters who are avid Trump supporters, right? Like, I think you should listen to all different sorts of opinions. And I think it's important to know that opinions like this, these extreme opinions, exist, but I think you have to be very careful. And so I have to say that I am definitely distancing myself. I'm no longer listening to the Rubin report. I've really pulled back any support that I had for him. If he buys another book, or rather if he writes another book, I would likely buy it, because honestly, Don't Burn This Book was a fantastic insight into how someone goes from the far left to a Trump supporter. When he wrote the book, he wasn't quite a Trump supporter, but it's clear, especially now, that he just wasn't publicly supporting Donald Trump. So it's just a really interesting look. Dave Rubin, for those who don't know, he used to be on the Young Turks, which are the crazy left-wing people, the crazy left-wing political show in the U.S., and he literally went from, he's a gay lead anchor, anchor or presenter, whatever, on the Young Turks, all the way to supporting Trump in 5 years. So he left the Young Turks the year before Trump's election. He was totally about Hillary Clinton in the last election, and now he had a MAGA hat on during his election coverage and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put that out there, because he's kind of gone really, really deep into the conspiracy, into like Alex Jones territory. But unlike Alex Jones, I think he definitely believes what he's talking about. Alex Jones is more of an entertainment kind of thing. Like, I find Alex Jones entertaining. When I'm watching Dave Rubin right now, I'm like, oof, I don't know, man. Like, it's a little scary. So either way, I just wanted to throw that out there, because I've talked a lot about him, and I just wanted to mention that I'm no longer quite the fan that I once was. But moving on, I wanted to start with some entertainment, because, like I said in the intro, things have been heavy lately. It's all been coronavirus and elections and a lot of information, a lot of viewers coming in, or downloaders, I guess, which is awesome, because people want this information, but my brain needs a break. I'm sure your brain needs a break, so I wanted to start just by talking kind of about politics. But Barack Obama appeared on Colbert this week. He's promoting his new book, so they were going back and forth on that. And I just wanted to say that I really encourage people to watch this interview. It's technically a 3-part interview, but one of the parts, they're like playing waste paper basketball, so obviously you don't have to, it's not really part of the interview, but either way, it's probably like 20-25 minutes in total, but I really encourage you to watch it, because it really gives an insight into what it takes to be president of the United States. And Obama's always been very good at keeping things light and not showing the heft of pressure. And I mean, honestly, I would go so far as to say all presidents have been very good at that, at least including Trump in my lifetime. But when we talk about putting a business person or a celebrity into politics, when we talk about the term Trump used was draining the swamp, but it's kind of a ratchet term, to be perfectly honest with you. What I would say is people don't like politicians because we know politicians lie to us, and politicians politic, right? They're very political in what they say. So, like, I've had a lot of people tell me that I should be thinking about running for office. That is something that I certainly thought about when I was younger, but at this point in my life, I'm just like, I don't know, like, I don't think I'm the person for that because I'm not that sort of political individual. Certainly local politics, you don't have to be. But if you have ambitions of higher levels of politics, right, when you get to provincial, state level, or federal level politics, all of a sudden, like, you are a politician, you are politicking, right? Municipal, local, city governments and county government is very different. You can sort of be who you are, but, like, I'm the kind of person who would not be interested in working at that level of politics. And I don't really have the ambition to change who I am and become that sort of political person, right? And I think it's really important for all of us to identify that within ourselves. That way we can then put it onto somebody else. So you see Obama talking about, or you hear Obama talking about his decision to run for president and how his wife literally hated that decision until they were done in office. And he says it kind of in jest, but I guarantee you, I mean, we know, like, I've read her book. You should, I didn't, honestly, I'll say it straight up. I did not like Michelle Obama's book. Didn't like it, but I read it. And she straight up says that, like, this is not the life she wanted. She did not want to be the first lady. She did not want Barack to be president of the United States. And he makes that quite clear as well in several interviews in his book, his new book. Apparently, I haven't read it yet. I've ordered it, but it doesn't come until December because it's sold out on Amazon. But it's really important to recognize in ourselves that certain capabilities we have and don't have that we can then put onto our federal and state level, but especially federal politicians. Because I look at Donald Trump and I see some things in myself, and everyone should. If you're like, I see Donald Trump, I don't see any of me. That's because you don't see Donald Trump. You see a racist, homophobic, whatever. That's not all of who he is. You have to be able to identify that everyone is human and you have sort of similarities with every single human out there. And you have to find the similarities and differences and then say, like, okay, does that individual have what it takes to run this country? And I think if people did this about Trump, they would be way less enthused about him, especially because, in general, when people talk about putting someone who's not a politician into politics, it means they don't want answers like, I understand what you're saying, however, in light of recent events, I don't think I should, or in light of recent events, we're going to withhold this statement until a later time, right? They give you all these non-answers. They bounce around questions. They use long words to make it sound like they answered a question, and then later when you look at it written down, they didn't answer a question. That's what politicians do. A lot of people don't want a politician because they're not getting answers from them, right? But when you have someone who's not a politician in those situations, put yourself there. I mean, you might be a politician. I have friends who work in politics. You may be listening to the podcast. You may not even be a friend, but listening to this podcast. Shout outs. But for those of us who are not politicians, put yourself in the position of being asked those crazy questions, like questions about the coronavirus, right? That you can't answer because either you don't have all of the information, you only have a little bit, or you really don't know. Right? You're being asked a question by a reporter who is staring at you. There's like 40 other people staring at you. There's all these cameras staring at you. And someone says, I need this information right now. What are you going to do? And you, as not a politician, will go, well, blah, 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 blah. And you might even make something up, which is what Trump does to give someone an answer. Because in business, that's what we do. When someone approaches you, like when a customer approaches you with a question, about, like, do you have this product? And if you don't have that product, but you think there's a chance you can get it, you're not going to say no. You're not going to say yes, but you're not going to say no. And you're going to make him or her think that you can supply them with that product because that's how business works, right? Celebrity is the same way. if someone approaches a celebrity and says, hey, do you think you can do this movie? And that celebrity's never done a movie. They don't think they're available that day, but there's a chance they are, and there's a chance they're going to make $100,000 to $200,000. They're going to say, yeah, maybe, right? Even though they don't even know how to act, and they know they're not going to be in the country that day, they're going to say yes, because you never turn down an opportunity in the celebrity world. So business and celebrity clearly do not conflate well with politics, and this is something that I really wish people were able to identify, because people are already saying, like, people are still talking about Oprah for president, and she has made it very clear she's not interested in that. But I genuinely think she could win, which is frightening, because people haven't learned. And I think the best way to learn is, as far-fetched as it sounds, to put yourself in the shoes of that celebrity. If you're in that position, are you then capable of being the president, of answering these questions, of dealing with these situations? Some people are going to be narcissists and be like, yep, I'm good. I'm good to go. I could be the prime minister. I could be the president. No problem. But 9 out of 10 people will probably see the reality and be like, yeah, I do not feel like dealing with the coronavirus at that level. You know what I mean? I have to deal with it personally. I don't want to get it. I don't want people around me to get it. I sure as hell don't want to be responsible for a country of people who are trying not to get it. Probably the most interesting and fun thing in the news this week is all the stuff coming out about Joe Biden's transition team. So on Monday, they were given permission, and this comes from the General Services Administration. Essentially, this is a branch of the U.S. federal government that oversees every administrative branch of government. So they control things like access to information and whatnot. And essentially, the person who runs that administration, who currently is a woman, and I'm delaying because I literally can't find her name in this. Oh, Emily Murphy. So this woman named Emily Murphy is in charge of the General Services Administration, and it is her job right now to come out and allow Biden's team to start to transition into the office of the president in January, because January 20th is the inauguration. And basically, they just haven't been allowing it, as everyone knows. It's been basically 4 weeks, 3 weeks, I guess, since the election ended. It was about 2.5 weeks since we really knew for sure, since it was certified, that Biden was going to win. And essentially, once it gets certified, they're supposed to be like, okay, you can take over. Or not that they're supposed to, but they always have. There's no rules about this. There's no rules saying you have to allow the next president to transition. But if you don't, there's like major security risks, there's major market risks, there's tons of stuff that can go wrong. So this administration has basically said, no, Joe Biden's team is not allowed to start transferring. Now, on Monday, Emily Murphy of the General Services Administration announced that Biden's team will be allowed to begin the formal transition into the White House, meaning that, among other things, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will now have access to security briefings. They'll have access to financing. They'll have access to do background checks on potential employees. And there's all sorts of stuff that they're then allowed to start doing, which they have to do to take over the White House. And the really interesting thing about it is Emily Murphy put out a note, or sent a note, an open letter to Joe Biden and his campaign, saying that she acted on her own, that she was not told to delay by the Trump administration, nor was she told to allow them to proceed by the Trump administration. And this decision was entirely her own, but due to the risk being posed to the country, she has decided that it's gone on long enough and the Biden campaigns can start their transition into the Biden White House. To which Donald Trump then basically she quite literally tweeted that Emily Murphy and the General Services Administration was instructed by him to allow the transition to happen. Which on its own is mind-blowing, because Trump is still saying that he won the election. So then when this woman comes out and says, I did not act based on what Trump said, he hasn't told me to allow this, he didn't tell me to delay this, I haven't had any communication with him, but the Biden team can begin to transfer. And then Trump right away jumps out and says, I told them they're allowed to do that. The Biden campaign's allowed to transfer. I instructed her to do that because people were saying she needed to do it, so I decided to allow her to do it, or allow them to do it. Then, when he was asked by journalists about this, because by allowing Biden's campaign to transition into the White House, that's basically like conceding, right? Trump is saying, yes, he lost the election, and Biden won, and Biden can start moving into the White House. Or not moving into, but planning for people to move into the White House. Trump then tweets, remember, the GSA has been terrific, and Emily Murphy has done a great job, but the GSA does not determine who the next president of the United States will be. So he sends out a tweet to answer what journalists have been saying, that by him allowing Joe Biden to begin transitioning into the White House, it is not saying that Joe Biden won, because transitioning into the White House doesn't mean you won the presidency. Which, of course, on its own, it doesn't mean that, right? The GSA, yes, they do not determine who the next president is. The people do. The people vote on that. But the GSA is not going to allow me to begin to transition into the White House, right? They don't just like pick someone like, Joe Biden, it's you. You can have access to millions of dollars to start putting people into the White House and flying around the country to interview people. And like they have access to tons of government money. They have full Secret Service access. They have access to the most secure security briefings in the country, okay? They don't just pick a random person. It's not like, well, you were involved in the election, so here you go. Like Hillary Clinton did not get contacted by the GSA to transition into the White House, right? It's not the way that it works. You lost, you don't get invited. You won, that's when the GSA reaches out. So Trump is acting all kinds of crazy here, sending out the craziest tweets. Like, honestly, I thought about going through his tweets and this is my favorite one that I found. I'll talk about this one. This is going to be This Week in Stupid wrapped into one tweet. So Donald Trump tweeted, should President Trump concede to Biden? Poll results show 190,000 people, no, 98.9%. 2,181 people, yes, 1.1%. Thanks, Newsmax, for the good of as the good of our country will prevail. Now, for those of you who have never heard of Newsmax, I'm not surprised. They have 753,000 Twitter followers. Newsmax is one of the farthest right news programs out there. They're only available on satellite and YouTube, and they are hardcore right-wing. There is no way anyone on the left is watching them. So they literally went and polled 200,000 or 190,000 of the most hardcore, conservative, Trump-supporting people in the country and asked them if Trump should concede, to which of course, they all said, no, he shouldn't, because they're listening to what Trump said. And then Trump retweets this poll as if it means anything. Like, he's literally, like, trying to say, look, 98% of the country supports me. It's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard of. But it's real. Like, you can go through Trump's tweets right now and just laugh so hard, because he totally is all in on this, and his supporters are, some of them, I wouldn't say most of them, but a large majority of them are all in on this. It is the funniest thing to watch politically. It's sad at a certain level, because people, of course, believe this is, like, completely true. Like, they are, like I already talked about Dave Rubin at the top of the show. There are a lot of people who are like, no, this was fraudulent, it's fake, you can't count votes after midnight, why did people go to bed? I don't even know how to describe this. Like, there are so many votes to count. Everyone knows you can't count 150 million votes in the 4 hours between when the polls close and midnight. Everyone has to know that. Like, you have to know that, right? It doesn't matter how many people we have. We're never going to get enough volunteers to count 150 ballots. And let's say some of them are electronic. Fine. But we still have to assume that about 100 million of them were mailed in or other forms of physical ballots, actual pieces of paper checked off. 100 million pieces of paper needed to be properly counted and then audited, because there's an audit function that happens to make sure the count was correct. So how are you supposed to do that in like 4 or 5 hours before midnight? You can't. They never do. They never have. They never will, unless it's all electronic. So I'm like just so lost, because usually, like, I did an episode on flat earth, right? I try to understand every conspiracy. This is one where intelligent people are behind this, like supporting it as if this is real, and there's just nothing there. There's no there. And maybe I'll do an episode on that, on this conspiracy of the fraudulent voting. That'd actually be kind of cool. But for now, all I'm going to say to end this is there was, in my opinion, in every general opinion across all of the U.S. security agencies, including many people who Trump appointed and has now fired, there was no fraudulent voting in the United States. Biden is beginning to transition into the White House, not to a woman. It is 2020. Transition into the White House. And that's going to go forward. Everything is going to be fine and normal in just a few months. And lastly, I want to wish all of our American listeners a very happy Thanksgiving. It is Thanksgiving is tomorrow, I guess, Thursday, because this posts on Wednesday, and of course Friday. It's Black Friday, and I've already started my Black Friday shopping, though I'm of course in the middle of building my apartment and my studio, so don't really have any money, but work is giving out bonuses early, so shout out to them. That's awesome. I'm actually gonna have money to spend. But I want to talk about Thanksgiving as a super spreader event for COVID, because I really want people to be safe right now. In my own family, there was a COVID scare this weekend where a few people had got together, and then one of the people that was there found out afterwards that they had been directly exposed to COVID. Now, she has since tested negative, so my family wasn't actually exposed to it, but it really puts it in perspective for how easy it is to happen, right? Just someone going to work, unbeknownst to them, comes in direct contact with it, meets with family, and then a few days later finds out you may have spread it to your entire family. So Thanksgiving is definitely not going to be a time to get together with people. I hope, like Canadian Thanksgiving, I definitely heeded the warning. My family did not get together. And I don't think anyone should. Like, I know it sucks. Christmas is going to be the same, but times are just different. We need to be careful with this. This will likely be a super spreader event in some areas, and I just hope that people are taking it super seriously. And I know most, if not, I know most people are. But a lot of people aren't, and that's the problem, right? It only takes one person at a family event of 15 to infect 7 or 8 other people there at the minimum, right? That's what we're seeing here in Ontario. That's what the numbers are showing, is most spread is happening by one person in a household getting it and then bringing it back home, and everyone in the household contracts it. So they're calling them household clusters. That's what's happening. So basically, it only takes one of you in a household. Say there's 4 people living in a house together, right? 2 parents and 2 kids. It only takes one of you to bring it home, and then boom, 3 of you get it. Well, think about that at Christmas. It only takes one of you to bring it to your Thanksgiving, not Christmas. It only takes one of you to bring it to your family. I keep saying Christmas. Your family Thanksgiving event, and spreading it to, even if they spread it to half the people there, right? How many people do you have at a Thanksgiving? 15 to 20, right? That's 7 to 10 people that are going to contract it from that event. it's not the time to be hosting these sorts of things. I know friends even here in lockdown areas that are getting together still. It's Thanksgiving for Canada was last month. We do it at the beginning of October. But I know friends who are still just getting together, having, dinners together and stuff like that in locked down zones. I do not encourage it. I'm really trying to get people to stop. I've been talking about the coronavirus since January, since before you were hearing about it on CBC and CNN and Fox and all this stuff. I've been talking about it because it's been out there. I think it actually started as one of my weird news stories because it was like someone got sick by eating a pangolin or a bat. It was the bat soup, right? That's how this started, even though it turns out that was wrong. It was a pangolin that they were eating. Pangolin, Pangolin. Look it up. Interesting looking creature. Not a penguin like my nephew thought it was. So just to put a wrap on this, please be careful if you're getting together with family and stuff. Wear a mask. Who cares if your drunk aunt is making fun of you? It doesn't matter. Just be as safe as you can. Because it could be you, right? That's the thing. It's not just that you might go and catch it at a family event and people are like, oh, who cares if I catch it? You might be the one who already has it, right? You can already have it and just not know. You could have been exposed yesterday and you're going to go hang out with your family on Thursday. And when Friday or Saturday comes, the person you were hanging out with on Monday is going to be like, yo, I tested positive for COVID. You need to go get tested. Then you're going to test positive. Then you have to tell every single person in your family, including your drunk aunt and everyone else, that your grandparents, your parents, seniors, young children, that all of you need to go get tested for coronavirus because I was positive when we were together. It's honestly worse than making an STD phone call, in my opinion, because at least an STD phone call, you could be like, you pick up the phone, you're like, hey, girl, you might have the clap. At least I got in and out. We enjoyed our time together. This is like a family event, right? No one really got significant pleasure out of it, okay? You know what I'm saying? So you really don't want to make that phone call. That's right. I turned a family-related COVID... my microphone fell. I turned a family-related COVID comment into a sex joke. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. I'm really awkwardly holding my microphone right now. I really encourage you guys to take these discussions with your friends and family, or even with me, over on social media. Of course, all the links can be found in the description for this podcast. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button and take a screenshot of the podcast playing on whatever podcast player you happen to enjoy using, and share that screenshot on your Facebook, Instagram stories, your Twitter feed thing, whatever, and anywhere else you can share podcasting information. Please don't forget to remain safe. Oh, and you can check out the merch store at www.laughtolearnpodcast.com/store, the link of which is also in the podcast description. Until next time, friends, keep socially distancing, keep on sanitizing your hands, keep washing your hands, keep wearing masks, keep staying the hell away from sick people, and keep staying the hell away from people when you're sick. Keep on laughing, and of course, keep on learning. Okay, now, the mic literally just fell. That's not good. Is it a test? Oh, mic's still working. Okay, let's see. Let's try and record that ending again.